This was the scene on Thursday when I was joined by celebrity activists and thousands of other New Yorkers at the United We Stand protest rally outside Donald Trump's New York hotel. We were there to send a message to our new president that any agenda that advances injustice will be met with vocal and unyielding resistance. That includes one of the first items on the Trump administration's agenda, the confirmation of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. Joining me now is Judith Browne Dianis, Executive Director of the Advancement Project, and Mark Thompson, host of SiriusXM Make It Plain with Mark Thompson. Thank you both for being with me this morning.
Thank you, Rev.
Judith, let me ask you, people watching have heard many of us raise questions about Senator Sessions being the Attorney General. Specifically tell the viewing audience why you feel they ought to be concerned, if not frightened, about Jeff Sessions becoming Attorney General.
Well, Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is a person who is no fan of civil rights. He is going to take a sledgehammer to our federal protections. I mean, his role is going to be just like the others who are being appointed by Trump, which is really to diminish the role of the federal government. And historically, we know that civil rights has been enforced by the federal government. We've had to turn to the federal government because the states were not protecting us. I mean, when you think about voting rights in particular, he has lauded the Shelby County case, which actually was a sledgehammer to the Voting Rights Act, saying that it was good for the South. So here is someone who wants to take us back to the Southern way, is still kind of thinking about the war of Northern aggression. And, you know, and secondly, he is someone who has used racist comments. He's referred to one of his past employees as boy, and then this is the person that we're supposed to expect is going to protect black people from the police when he actually thinks of a black man as a boy. And so we've got to be very concerned. His record shows that he is not the appropriate choice, and that in fact he's not only going to undermine civil rights laws, but also the Constitution.
Now, Mark, it is clear that there's concern among civil rights community, the black community, but you've been involved last week with the Civil Rights March, yesterday with the Historic Women's March. Why should women be concerned? Where's the connection with these millions of women marching and their concerns about a Jeff Sessions?
Well, you know, as a matter of fact, Jeff Sessions is someone who may very well not uphold the law when it comes to protecting women and their rights. And we also know women vote as well, and when it comes to issues even like voter IDs, many times that affects many, many women. Jeff Sessions is someone who's in favor of voter ID and has minimize the impact of voter ID when it comes to voter suppression. That's one area. He said in his hearing that he was put on the spot. He said he respects the law of the land when it comes to Roe v. Wade. But we know that women's reproductive rights have been under attack at the state level a great deal more than anywhere else. Is this an attorney general that is going to vigorously defend women's reproductive rights at the federal level and before the Supreme Court? I don't think we have any reason to trust him. I don't think we have any reason to believe Jeff Sessions. He's living up to his name. He's named after Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy, and a Confederate general by the name of Beauregard.
Right.
And I think everyone should all be very, very concerned about him and his behavior.
Another part of this, Judith, was that when they started the voter ID laws in Alabama right after the Supreme Court decision in terms of the Voting Rights Act and Section 5 was in many ways neutralized, the local Department of Motor Vehicles in several counties, which was where you could go and try to get your ID that you could use for voting, closed down. In the 10 large black counties, 8 of those counties closed down. That never even was questioned by Senator Sessions, who was the senator of Alabama at that time and still is. And why didn't he do something to protect or to verbally come out? So the question, as Mark raises it about Roe versus Wade, him saying he would protect, or he would respect, rather, the law, but enforcing the law and making sure that people are protected under the law, the DMV issue in Alabama is very telling.
Right. Oh, definitely. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions, in fact, has called the Voting Rights Act an intrusive piece of legislation. The Voting Rights Act that protects us from discrimination. So we should not expect that someone who believes that a law that was hard fought for, where people died for that right, that was established actually and comes out of the fight in Alabama and in Selma and crossing the Edmund Pettus Bridge, and he is from Alabama, and he could not stand up and be on the side of voting rights, and instead calls it intrusive. We should not expect that he's going to enforce the law. And that's what this role is. The Attorney General is supposed to be the one who looks to the federal law, who looks to the Constitution to protect the people of the United States. And he is not going to do that, especially when it comes to voting rights and civil rights issues.
Well, they have the majority of the House, or the Republicans have the majority of the Senate. How are people going to press to block any confirmation when the majority is absolutely with the party that seems to be rallying around both Sessions to be Attorney General, as well as rallying around the other confirmations that President Trump has made?
It's going to be very different when it comes to confirmations, Rev, because it is about a majority vote. The Senate, Democrats in the Senate will have an easier time, believe it or not, in blocking his Supreme Court nominations, and I hope they do that. Every single one of them they should block. But when it comes to cabinet confirmations, it's a little bit more difficult. They may be able to delay. But that is why what you did on Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, January 14th, what the women did all over the country and all over the world just yesterday is very, very important. And I know you recall this, Rev. In 1968, Dr. King created an atmosphere with all these diverse groups, with the beloved to push back. I mean, technically, there were no confirmations on the table. There was nothing that could be done necessarily on Capitol Hill. But there was so many people in the streets, so many people mobilized and activated, that it changed the country and ultimately changed the tide of the Vietnam War, forced President Johnson to no longer run for re-election. Everything changed. Yep. We're going to have to replicate what you did Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, what all the women all over the country and the world did yesterday, and keep it going consistently. That's going to be our pushback, because this president, after such a dignified presidency with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and all they represent, this president, with the nomination of Jeff Sessions, along with this president's own behavior, would basically take us back to the time of Andrew Johnson and turning back the clock from Reconstruction.
I'm going to have to leave it there. Thanks to you, Judith Browne Dianis, and, of course, Mark Thompson.